It's okay. It's up to you. Okay, we're being sent, apparently now we're being sent to a third party. Okay, we consent to sharing our information. I'm just going to do the Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem. Malachei Hashem.
Great Malachi, me,
Melech Malachei
Kadosh Baruch Hu,
Oachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu, Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon,
Melech Malachim,
Seidchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. I usually don't do voiceover myself. I mean, of myself. Are we reliving the second day of Rosh Hashanah? Is there any way to shut me up?
Are you hearing an echo of your voice?
Do you know why am I broadcasting?
Well, we're on YouTube, but I think you might be hearing an echo of your own voice. Is that what you're
I
hearing?
think I'm hearing an echo.
So if you go into audio sounds, you can turn on echo cancellation, audio settings. You can turn on echo.
Audio sounds?
And turn on original sound at home, Dana. It won't work right. It's off now. It's off. Maybe that was doing it.
You hear this? They can't shut me up.
Oh, well, we could, but
It's an echo of me. But it sounds like a real thing. It just keeps, I've been doing Ethel Merman. I've been zooming through the davening.
Seriously, if you go into audio settings, there's a thing.
Where is audio settings?
It's the little up arrow between the microphone
Little up
and
arrow? No, all I have is the arrow that shows me the people. Just keeps, I've been doing it. I have participants, chat, share screen, summary, AI companion, show captions, raise hand, apps, whiteboards, notes.
You don't have the little
Leave?
microphone and
Oh, the little arrow? Okay,
little
there's the
arrow.
little arrow.
Then what?
What do I click?
audio settings should be the bottom thing.
Audio settings? I've got a
Sorry.
What if he went out and came back in? Would it make a difference?
should I do that?
You might
right.
Okay, let me do that. I'll be back. Nobody leave.
We won't.
You sound staticky too, Dana. Gonna mute.
Well, I haven't rebooted my router in months. It's probably time, but I don't want to do it since I start. But you're the host now, so
Yeah, it's okay. It's just that
wait, now you're muted.
it's low. It seems like the streaming might be low. Wi-Fi might be a problem. Not just in general. Yeah,
Well, if you mind, because I started the meeting, I'll log out and log back in because you're
no,
already
it's okay. No, I think I see what you want. Hold on a minute. Let me shut some stuff off. Tell me some.
Unmuted. Now I fill the screen.
Right,
Okay, how about now? We okay?
yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, see? Ethel Merman left. Merman has left the building. She wasn't Jewish, you know. Her real name was Zimmerman, but she was a German immigrant. She wasn't, I don't know if she was an immigrant. She might have been. Okay, well, this is the thing, folks. I'm sort of on thin ice here because this is a Shabbat, which apparently comes after a holiday. Of course, it comes after a holiday. And for some reason, it loses a lot of its Shabbatness. We're supposed to start from Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat, the Psalm of Shabbat. So we're not going to have Lecha Dodi, we're not going to have the Shabbat Psalms and all that. But let's look at page 14. We can't take this out of the service because it's not really part of the service. It's conservative. So make loving God, compassion's gentle source, take my disposition and shape it to your will. Page 14. Like a darting deer, will I rush to you. Before your glorious presence, humbly will I bow. Let your sweet love delight me with its thrill, because no other dainty will my hunger still. How splendid is your light, illumining the world. My soul is weary yearning for your love's delight. Please, good God, do heal her, reveal to her your face, the pleasure of your presence, bathed in your grace. She will find strength and healing in your sight. Forever will she serve you, grateful with all her might. Die, 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 die. Okay, everything has been put to rights, and we're in business. So, and I don't have to listen to myself singing anymore, which is a shame. But let's turn, please, in the prayer book to page 23. Mizmor, Mizmor, Shir, Shir Yom Shabbat. Mizmor, Mizmor, Shir, Shir Yom Shabbat. A song for Shabbat. We'll do this responsibly. It is good to acclaim Adonai, to sing your praise, exalted God, together to affirm your love each morning and your faithfulness each night, to the music of the lute and the melody of the harp. Your works, O Adonai, make me glad. I sing with joy of your creation. How vast your works, Adonai! Your designs are beyond our grasp. The thoughtless cannot comprehend, the foolish cannot fathom this. The wicked may flourish, springing up like grass, but their doom is forever sealed, for you are supreme forever. Your enemies, Adonai, your enemies shall perish. All the wicked shall crumble. But me you have greatly exalted. I am anointed as with fragrant oil. I have seen the downfall of my foes. I have heard the despair of my attackers. The righteous shall flourish like the palm tree. They shall grow tall like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they will thrive in the courts of our God. They shall bear fruit even in old age. They shall be ever fresh and fragrant, to proclaim Adonai is just, my rock in whom there is no flaw. And the last four lines of the psalm. Tzadika tamar yifrach ki eres balvanon yizkeh shetulim beveit Adonai Bechatzrot Eloheinu Yafrihu Odinu Iseba Tishenim Verananim Yehu Lehagi Ki Ashar Adonai Suri Below of Latabo. And the reason we did that, the reason we left out a whole passel of prayers is because this is not just an ordinary Shabbat. This is a Shabbat that follows a Yontif. So we are still basking in the glow of the receding Yontif, and we are also during Aseres Yemei Tshuva, those are the 10 days of penitence, starting with Rosh Hashanah and culminating in Yom Kippur, when this is the time where if you have the need to perform repentance, it is especially efficacious, and God is particularly recipient of this time. So that's why we leave out so many of the prayers. It's not a Stam Shabbos. It's not just an ordinary Shabbat. We have to acknowledge that we came out of Rosh Hashanah and that Yom Kippur is coming. This is the only Shabbat of the year where when we do the mourner's Kaddish or the full Kaddish or any Kaddish, we don't just say La'ela, which means higher. We say La'ela Uli'ela, or in our text, it's La'ela La'ela, which is higher and higher, because God is so on high. Oh, the dog just left. He is so on high that he is, you'd think he would be unreachable, but God says, no, if you reach out to me in repentance, if you come to me a mile, I will come to you 10 miles. If you come to me 10 miles, I will come to you 100 miles. God wants to forgive us. God understands that we are human and therefore fragile. So right now, I'm going to share with you the useful words from the Ezra's Torah Luach. I had no idea years ago when I started getting these little pocket calendars. It's a pocket calendar. Every Shabbat, it tells you what the prayers are and what the Torah portion is. Our Christian friends would call this a lectionary. I'm not really sure. I should look that up. But anyway, this particular Torah portion is Ha'azinu. It is the next to the last portion of the holiday year. And next week is V'zot HaBracha. This is the blessing which Moses gives the Israelites immediately prior to his death. Because God, one thing about Moses, he's dying, it's tragic, but he just keeps on talking. That seems to be a model for rabbis since that time. But how do you cook your food for Shabbos? Are you allowed to cook on Shabbos? Are you allowed to make preparations? No, the only thing you're allowed to make are preparations that have already been prepared. So if you were going to put together a salad, one of those bags with salad in would be perfect, because even though it's milchiks, because it's got all the components. You didn't have to add anything. That's completely self-contained. You're not allowed to open a container except for immediate consumption. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, this is the instructions they give you. The first Shabbat of every year, they give you very painstaking details as to what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. And for the sake of our comparisons, we'll assume that there are two different types of Jews, religious and, oh my God, meaning the people who are so absolutely religious, they have a difficult time living on this earth, going to work, going to a restaurant, eating outside, anything. Even if they come to your house, they're not allowed to eat fruit unless it is a fruit with a peel, because they couldn't eat an apple. They could eat an orange. They could eat a coconut. They could eat a banana. I don't know how you open a coconut on Shabbos, really. This is not something I've ever given too much brain power to. But let's see what he says. This is Rav Henkin, who is one of the sages of, that is Ezra's Torah. And he was the executive director, and he was Hagaon Harav Yosef Eliyahu Henkin Zecher Tzaddik Livracha. May the memory of the righteous be a blessing. So Rav Henkin, being the tippy top of the Ezra's Torah rabbinate, you can imagine, is the strictest of all. And I'm going to share this with you. In preparing for Shabbos, you must be certain that all food that is to be kept warm must be completely cooked before candle-lighting time. That means the meal you're going to have on Shabbos, not only Friday night, Shabbos lunch after davening, has got to be completely cooked. And what does the result of completely cooking your food on Friday afternoon before you eat it on Shabbos afternoon? It gets dried out and dark and tasteless. And this is where the legendary Jewish cooking has gotten its reputation. Now, I'm not saying this is true of all cooks, because cooks who are knowledgeable can get around this, and they're able to somehow perform some kitchen leisure domain, which allows them to serve food that is at least halfway consumable. But that is why my mother, should rest in peace, cooked the way she did. She made us pan-fried steak. Have you ever had a pan-fried steak? That is, oh my gosh, it's really like a tire patch. It was an adventure to eat it. And when it was burnt, it was done. That seems to be the universal standard. But I know nowadays you have wonderful cookbooks and the joy of Shabbos cooking and all of these things. But I'm just telling you, that is not the side of the street my mother worked on. Here we go. Okay. The possibility of permitting kidra hayata, I never heard of that one, food that is totally raw, to be placed on a covered flame immediately before candlelighting. What happens if you take food that is totally raw and you place it over a covered flame before candlelight? What is the result of the food? How does it come out? Oh, toothsome, delicious, tender to the touch. You can cut it with a feather. No, indeed. So that's discussed in the Torah and the Talmud. You shouldn't do that today. No. All your food should be pre-cooked. And do you know how much kosher food costs? It's amazing. If food is not completely cooked before Shabbos, there is a strong possibility that one might, heaven forbid, this is Rav Henkin now, come to violate the Torah prohibition against cooking on Shabbos. You're not even allowed to make yourself a cup of coffee. You've got to have a kli sheni. You've got to have different vessels. You've got one vessel for the hot, and this is because my parents, again, should rest in peace, when they made coffee on Shabbos, they used water that was pre-warmed. First, you have to take your stove. This is, of course, a gas stove. Nobody in those days had electric stoves. Electric stoves would have made life easier. But growing up in the city, everybody had a gas stove. You put a blech on top. A blech is a sheet of metal material. I wouldn't be surprised if it contained asbestos. Everything else did in those days. We were poisoning ourselves. We had no idea. And you put the blech over the top of the stove, and you leave one little baby burner slow on a very low flame towards the back. That's where you pile all of your pots for Shabbos. If you're making cholent, that's where it goes. And the cholent has to be already made. If you're making anything warm, any kugel, it's got to go on that as well. And the blech more or less spreads out the heat, not evenly before around the whole thing, but just in that little section where you have the gas flame going. The front of the blech is bent. It's bent at a 45-degree angle. I'm sorry, a 90-degree angle, so that it covers up the controls. Why do you cover up the controls of your stove? Because it's natural, if you're a cook, to start playing with the heat and so on and so forth. You're not allowed to adjust the heat on Shabbos. That little flame in the back has got to stay on the whole 24 hours of Shabbos. What else? If you wish to leave hot food that's been prepared exclusively for the daytime Shabbos meal in the oven overnight on Shabbos, you must close the oven door securely and place some type of reminder there to prevent anyone from opening the oven until the daytime meal. These precautions should be followed every Shabbos of the year. Hot cooked foods that are to be kept warm must be put in their proper place before candlelighting. You light candles at the proper time, which is approximately 20 minutes before sunset. And the bracha on Shabbos candles is lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. And the candle lighting time is always given in the back. They give you a chart for Washington, D.C., Toronto, and Teaneck, and St. Paul, Minnesota, and St. Louis, and so on, all the other saints. So that is how you cook your food for Shabbos. It was a challenge, because back in those days, everything was made from scratch. They had no prepared foods. I mean, you could make yourself a potato kugel from a mix, but it was horrible. It tasted like potato air. Anyway, but somehow or other, we survived. We managed to eat 3 meals on Shabbos. It was wonderful, and everybody gained weight. And in those days, if you gained weight, that was considered healthy. Not anymore. Now you should be very lean. All right. Now, Hazinu. Let's talk very briefly about Hazinu. It means listen. You should give ear. And the greater part of the Torah reading of Ha'azinu is a 70-line song that's delivered by Moses to the people of Israel on the last day of his earthly life. For a guy who's about to shuffle off this mortal coil, he is remarkably productive. He gives a speech to the Israelites. He tells them everything they're going to do wrong. He composes the poem of Ha'azinu, which he probably didn't compose, and he says, V'zot habracha, this is the blessing which Moses gave to each and every one of the tribes prior to his death. I got to give this to Moses. In terms of productivity, he is really up there. He cranked out these poems. The first poem he ever did was the Az Yashir, which is the Shirat Hayam. That's the song of the Israelites at the Red Sea, the Sea of Reeds. And that was his first magnum opus. Then later on, of course, he composes the Torah, which is no small thing, because what did he do for 40 days and 40 nights on top of Mount Sinai? He wrote down the Torah to God's dictation. And he takes down as a souvenir the 10 Commandments. And what does he do with the 10 Commandments when he sees the Israelites making a festival and having an orgy around the golden calf? He smashes them. So he's got to take the golden calf, grind it into powder, make the Israelites drink it mixed with river water, sort of eating crow. And then he's got to go back up to Mount Sinai for another 40 days. And God gives him another set of 10 commandments. But this set is written by Moses himself. The first one God wrote with the finger of lightning, but that was destroyed. The second set was written by Moses himself with his hammer and chisel. There's a belief. I'm left-handed, so if I were a chiseler, I would go like this. But most people who are right-handed go like this. That's why they say Hebrew goes from right to left. I don't necessarily believe that, but it's a clever idea. Okay, so he calls heaven and earth to witnesses, and he exhorts the people, remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations, ask your father and he will tell you, your elders and they will tell you. God found them in a desert land. This is a different tradition. Most of us, thank God, are familiar with the tradition that the Israelites were slaves in Egypt, and Moses came down and God freed the slaves. So that's why it was a very dicey proposition indeed, if you had slaves back in the days in America, to give them Bibles, because the Bible is a subversive book. The Bible says there should be no slaves. You shouldn't be slaves to each other. You should be slaves to God, servants to God. All right. So he's going to take them into the land of Israel. Moses doesn't do this. Who does this? Extra credit. Joshua. Very good. Joshua. And he found them in a desert land, made them a people, chose them as his own, and bequeathed them a beautiful land. The song also warns against the pitfalls of plenty, because when they settle in the land and they become farmers, they're going to save their produce for idolatry, because it's the thing to do. The neighbors are doing it. You've got the Arameans living over there. You've got the Edomites living over there. You've got the Moabites living over there. And it's a great temptation to become an idolater. There's still people today who have difficulty not being idolaters. I've met people who worship a Corvette. So you just have to use your judgment about these things. Yeshurun grew fat and kicked. You've grown fat, thick, and rotund. He forsook God who made him and spurned the rock of his salvation. The nice thing about this poem, even though I don't agree with the goal of it, which is to make the Jews feel pretty bad about themselves, is that it has all kinds of wordplay based on the poetic words that Moses uses. In the end, God will avenge the blood of his servants and be reconciled with his people and land. Parsha ends with God's instruction to Moses to ascend the summit of Mount Nebo, from which he will behold the promised land before dying on the mountain. You shall see the land opposite you, but you shall not go there into the land which I give to the children of Israel. And on the plus side, it was important that Moses not lead the Israelites because he was, with all due respect, yesterday's news. They needed a young, strapping military leader like Joshua to lead them in to conquer the different cities. But as I've said many times before, and I do apologize, they didn't do that. Most of the cities were not conquered. The city of Jericho, for example, has been found. There's a city today called Jericho. It's not the same as the biblical Jericho, But the biblical Jericho featured the walls that were 3 feet thick and stone walls that went up to the sky. And there's no way that a nomadic people could have conquered those. The people inside the city would have just hunkered down, eaten their rice puffs, and lived for the period of time that until the Israelites got bored and packed up and left. But there's these two conflicting traditions, because in the Tanakh, in the Hebrew Bible, it says that they did indeed conquer the different cities like Jericho and Ai. That's my favorite, Ai, and places like that. But we know that that really isn't true. All right, that's the Torah portion. That's also how to cook on Shabbat. We did cover a lot tonight. Let's take a look at the prayer book. And I'm making a minion assumption. So we're going to turn now to please to page 28 and rise for the Baruch Hu. Baruch. Let's try again. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Voed. Amen. Please be seated. Let's read the paragraph at the top of the line. Praise to you, Adonai our God. Praise to you, Adonai our God, who rules the universe, your word bringing the evening dusk. You opened with wisdom the gates of dawn, designed the day with wondrous skill, set out the succession of seasons, and arranged the stars in the sky according to your will. Adonai Tzvaot, you create day and night, rolling light away from darkness, darkness away from light. Eternal God, your sovereignty shall forever embrace us. Praise to you, Adonai, for each evening's dusk. Baruch atah Adonai, Amari v'aravim. Amen. Page 29. Avat olam beit Yisrael, amchavta, Torah u'mitzvot, ukim mishpatim, otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, shachenu uvekumeinu, nasiach bechukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, uv'mitzvotecha, li'olam voed. Ki heim chayenu, yorech yameinu, yorech yameinu, uvahem Neget yomam v'layla, v'ahavatecha tasir mimenu li'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Page 30, the Shema. We cover the eyes. Shema Yisrael. Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Uncover the eyes. Baruch Shem Kivod, Malchuto, Liholam Voed. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. And these words, which I command you this day, you shall take to heart. Teach them diligently to your children, and recite them at home and away, night and day. Bind as a sign upon your hand and as a reminder above your eyes. Inscribe them upon the doorposts of your homes and on your gates. All right. Let's take a look at page 32. We'll sing the Michamocha. Michamocha, Vahelim Adonai. Michamocha, Nedor Kodesh, Noratilot, Hosef Ele, Malchut Charovanecha, Okayam Lifnei Moshe, Seili Anu V'Amru, Adonai Imlo, V'Olam Voed, V'Nemar, Ifad Adonai et Yaakov, Ugialo Miad Chazak Mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai, Goal Yisrael. Amen. Now on page 33, we have the list of the cholim, the folks who were not well. I will read that list. Okay, here we go. Paul Dobbs, Refuah Shalema. Harun Imran, Refuah Shalema. Ken Tribble, Refuah Shalema. Sheila Bergman, Refuah Shalema. Nancy Borden, Refuah Shalema. Elisa Pepper, Refuah Shalema. Jeff Stern, Refuah Shalema. Anna DeClaire, Refuah Shalema. Sonia and Herb Yevsky, Refuah Shalema. Vince and Patricia Massey, Refuah Shalema. And if there are other people for whom you wish me to say this prayer, just say the name aloud. I can't hear, but we'll keep them in mind when we say the prayer. Help us, reading together on page 33. Help us, Adonai, to lie down in peace and awaken us again, our sovereign, to life. Spread over us your shelter of peace. Guide us with your good counsel. Save us because of your mercy. Shield us from enemies and pestilence, from starvation, sword, and sorrow. Remove the evil forces that surround us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, O God, who watches over us and delivers us, our gracious and merciful ruler. Guard our coming and our going. Grant us life and peace now and always. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Praise to you, Adonai, who spreads the shelter of peace over us, over all his people Israel, over Jerusalem and the entire world. Ufros aleinu sukat shalomecha, oruch atah Adonai, orei sukat shalom, aleinu v'al kol amo Yisroel, v'al Yerushalayim, v'al kol haolam kulo. Amen. Page 34. Vishamru b'nei Yisroel et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam barito la'am. Vishamru b'nei Yisroel et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam barito la'am. Beini uvein b'nei Yisroel hoti liolam, hoti liolam, hoti liolam. Vishamru b'nei Yisroel et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam barito olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai, asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz. Vishamru b'nei Yisroel et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam barito olam. Uvayom hashvi Shabbat painafash, Shabbat painafash, Shabbat painafash. Vishamru b'nei Yisroel et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam barito olam. Please rise for the half Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah. Amen. Yalmad yivrach hirute v'yamlich malchute v'chaye chon uv'yomei chon uv'chaye l'chol beit Yisroel. Bagala, bagala, uvizman kari, v'meru, amen. Yesh me rabba mevora, liolam liol meol maya, yitbarach, yitbarach, v'yishtabach, yitbohar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, V'yitaleh, v'yitala, Shemei Kudisha, Brihu, Liela, Min Kol Birchata, b'shirata tushbecha tavene lemata damiran bi'alema b'imeru. Amen. We'll do the Amidah, the standing silent prayer, 35b to page 38. Include the additions for Shabbat Shuvah. This is the Shabbat on which we still hold on to a strong part of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. When you're done, you may be seated. All right, if you haven't finished the Amidah, please continue. And we'll turn now, please, to page 47. I'm going to read the middle paragraph on the page, on page 47. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elokei Avoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Oel Hagadol Gibor Vanora, El Elyon Konei Shamayim V'Aretz, Yen Avot Bidvaro, Chaye Metim B'Mamaro, Oel HaKadosh Shein Kamohu, Hameniach Li'amo, B'Yom Shabbat Kodsho, Kivam Ratza Lehaniach Lahem, Kivam Ratza Lehaniach Lahem, Lefanav Navod, B'Yirav V'Fachad, V'Nodeh Lishmo, B'Chol Yom Tamid, Be'ein HaBrach. El Ahudahut Don Hashalom Mikadesh HaShabbat Umvaret Shevi Umeniach Medusha Le'amidu shnei onei zecher Lemase v'reishi zecher Lemase v'reishi. Page 48. Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu, Ritzei b'mnuchatenu, Kadeshenu b'mitzvotecha, V'tein chelkenu Toratecha, Sabenu mituvecha, V'samchenu b'shuatecha, V'tah Libe Liavdicha B'emet V'hanchilenu Adonai Eloheinu B'ahava U'vratzo Shabbat Kodechecha Yanuchu V'Yisroel B'Kadeshei Shemecha Baruch Atah Kadesh Hashabbat. Amen. And the full Kaddish. And you'll notice I say La'ela, Le'ela. Yitkadav Yikadash Shemei Rabbah. Amen. Yalma Divra Chirute V'Yamliach Malchute. V'chayechon V'yimechon V'chay Chol Beit Yisrael. Agalav Isman Karivim Bru. Amen. Yehesh Me Rabbah Mevora. Li'olam li'ol me'ol maya. Yitbarach. Yitbarach v'shabach v'poar v'tromam v'yitnaseh. Yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalol shmei dekudesha b'richu. Li'elah min kol birchata v'shirata. Li'elah li'elah mikol birchata v'shirata. Tushbata v'nechamata. Damiran v'yalma v'yimru. Amen. Titkabal tzloton uvuton. D'chol Yisrael kadama v'hundi v'shmaya v'yimru. Amen. Yehei shalom rabba min shemaya. L'chaim oleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Ose shalom bimromav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu. V'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'al kol yoshvei tevel. V'imru amen. And the Kiddush on page 49. Savri mornon vramanon rabotai. Baruch atah Adonai. Eloheinu melech haolam. Borei pri hagafen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai. Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher kiddishanu mitzvotav v'ratzavanu. B'Shabbat kodsho b'ahava uv'ratzon hinchi lanu. Zikaron l'maseh v'reshit. Kihu yom techila l'mikrae kodesh. Zecher litziat Mitzrayim. Kivanu v'charta. Yotanu kidashta. Mikol ha'amim. B'Shabbat kodshecha. B'ahava uv'ratzon. Hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai. Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen. Chaim, Shalom, of Simchas. Now the Aleinu on page 51. Aleinu l'shabeach ladun hakol latet gedula liotzer breshit shelo asan kigoye haratzot v'lo samanu k'mishpachot adama shelo sam chelkenu kahem v'go aleinu kechol hamonam anachnu korim Mishtachavim umodim lifnei melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shehu Noteh Shamayim v'Yosei Haaretz, U'Moshe B'Karo B'Shamayim Imal, U'Shchinatu Zo, B'Gavei Meromim, Eloheinu Eino, Emet Malkeinu Efes Ulato, Kakatu, V'Torato V'Yadataya, Yadataya Mahashevota El Levavecha, Ki Adonai Hu Elohim, Bashamayim Mimal, V'Al Haaretz, Mitachat Einod, V'Nemar, V'Haya Adonai, Lemelech al kol haaretz, Bayom hahu, Yeh Adonai echad, Ushemo echad. And the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, Amen. Yalma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon v'yimeichon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael. V'agalau v'zman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevorach v'yolam ulmeil maya. Yitborach v'yishtabach v'yitpo'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei dekudisha b'richu. Li'ela, mikol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata, Damiran bi'alma v'imru Amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shemaya, V'chayim oleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu yaseh shalom. Oleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru Amen. On page 54 is the Adon Olam. I don't have any announcements. Rita could not be with us tonight. But, oh yes, one important announcement. Tomorrow, we have a regular Shabbat service. It's going to be in the chapel in the base medrash. And following the service, I regret to inform you there is no Kiddush. However, we will be doing a reading in memory of the hostages or in honor of the hostages. I've invited some congregants to prepare 5-minute biographies of each one of them choosing a hostage. It's a very sad task indeed to memorialize somebody whose life was cut short. But we are going to do that, and I'll also be supplying some poetry by Yehuda Amichai, who's the closest thing Israel ever had to a national poet. There are no classes tomorrow, but or Wednesday, right? No classes on Wednesday because Yom Kippur is coming up. As we know, it falls on Shabbat this year. So Yom Kippur Kol Nidre will be Friday night, and the Yom Kippur davening will be also include a great many prayers from the Shabbat davening. So here we go. On page 54, we have the Adon Olam. Adon Olam, Hashem Olam, Terem Kol Yitzir Nivra, Li'et Nasa V'chefzo Kol, Zay Melech Shemo Nikra, Hazay Melech Shemo Nikra, Yacharei Kichlot HaKol Leva Ado Yimloch Nora, V'hu Haya V'hu Hoveh, Hu Yeh B'Tifara, V'hu Yeh B'Tifara, V'hu Echad V'Ein Sheni, Laham Shilo Birach Bira, V'li Reishit V'li Tachlit, V'lo Haoz V'Hamisra, V'lo Haoz V'Hamisra, V'hu Eli Kevchai Goali, Tzur V'Tzur Chevli V'Eitzara, V'hu Nisi Umanosli, Not Kosi V'Yomekra, V'not Kosi V'Yomekra, Yado Afkid ruchi bi'ed ishan v'yahira v'im ruchi giviyati Adonai li Elohira Adonai li Elohira. And the closing benediction. Yivarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May the Lord bless you and keep you. Yo'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May the Lord turn his face unto you and grant you peace. Say Amen. Shabbat shalom. Good Shabbos. I don't know. Do we have schmoozing time? We have about 5 minutes to 8. So are we schmoozable? Okay. Dina's going to schmooze us up. Very good. Okay. We are going to be schmoozed. Shana Tova. Happy and healthy.
Happy and healthy.
Yes.
To everybody.
That's right.
Shabbat shalom.
Okay.
Shabbat shalom.
Happy,
right.
healthy New Year, everyone.
Same to you. Same to you.
May it be a better one than this past one.
Oh, yes, you bet.
Amen.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Okay. All right. Well, I guess we're schmoozed out, but God bless and
Let's hope it
Thank
doesn't
you.
rain tomorrow
Thank you.
morning like it did this one.
say it.
Have an easy pass.
Yes, don't forget the carbo load.
He just wants to eat a lot of bread.
I'm not. We don't even have any. We
Yes.
don't have bread. We have tortillas. Tortilla is a very unsatisfying substitute for bread. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. God bless. Thank you for coming. Take care.
Thank
See
you. Good night, everyone.